All right, so today I just got this baby in the mail yesterday, and I want to see how it fits right in between a decently stable Instinct and the Paradigm. So a 7, a 9, and a 12 speed. So let's see if it really has a spot in the bag and see all the differences in how they fly. All right, so after throwing quite a variety of shots, I started off with just a straight tunnel 300-foot shot, and the Instinct, you'll see, pretty straight slide anhyzer because it doesn't have enough power behind it to really push it over. So the Instinct flies straight, true to the 0-2, has its 0-2 finish. And then the CD1 threw it with a little bit of anhyzer, but at that speed, it flies more like the Instinct. It doesn't really push into that -1 turn at about 300 feet. I think or about 330 is what it was. Paradigm, same idea. It actually does push into its -1 or 1.5 just a little, but not a lot at that 340, 330 range. And then I went into a 380-foot straight, almost open, but really I'd use those trees as double mandos. And so threw the Instinct out, and this was in a slight left to right headwind, so we could really test the stability out. And you see the Instinct kind of flip up straight, not a whole lot of turn, but then pushes straight through that gap and then kind of pushes out to that 365, 370 area. The CD1, with that headwind, hyzered it, and you see it does flip up straight and then turn slightly for quite a ways. But because of the amount of hyzer I put on it, it didn't really turn out and finish flat. It did have a harder fade at the end, which is fine. And then the Paradigm, same idea. And so I put it on hyzer, just a little less than the CD1 after seeing how it flew. And it turned straight through that gap that double manda that's about 280 feet out. And then just pushed all the way straight. Actually kept going on its turn for quite a while and then finished pretty straight. And then I got into just pumping it out as far as I could. Now there's a tailwind behind me, so this is going to change the way they would fly significantly. And so the Instinct pumped it out straight, no turn whatsoever. A little lower could have been better, but it's fine. You see how straight it is and that it can handle quite a bit of torque at that distance, with the wind behind me, of course. And it went about 405. And then the CD1, I threw it a bit higher, probably slightly even nose up. So I think with a bit nose down, it would have pushed even further, but it only went just a little past the Instinct. But it never got really pushed into that -1 turn because the tailwind. And the Paradigm, again, we're starting to see that it really truly is as understable as it's probably making out to be. This really straight distance driver, understable, I hope that's what I said. And so wind behind, pushed it out about 435. You'll see a bit more turn on it, but not nearly as much as if there was maybe no wind or slight head or left to right wind. And then I went into about 200 feet in front of me, trying to push through a tunnel and then anhyzer it out of that gap and into the open. And so all three of these discs did phenomenal. The Instinct holds its line, makes it all the way through, and flattens out pretty well at the end as long as it has enough height. The CD1, same thing. I think that because of that -1, it needed that extra height, and it does swing out of its turn or out of that angle, but it takes some time. So to put these on some anhyzer, just like an Instinct, it's going to need a bit more room to work up and down, unlike a PD that you can kind of keep it low and tight and it'll swing out pretty quick. Paradigm, almost the exact same idea, probably can just handle a little more torque, or its glide and speed when put at the right arm speed, just give it way more distance. So the CD1's not going to push nearly as far as this, at least from what I've noticed. And then I went into a straight headwind hyzer, like trying to reach this little elevated island at about 350, trying to push the hyzer into the headwind. It would just like flip up relatively straight, and then this one, the Instinct actually jumped out early, and so I gave the CD1 quite a bit more. And then you see I did push out, and I let it stay out thinking it was going to swing more, and it would have probably made the island, but it hit the poles that are right above me. And so it flipped up, pushed out really straight for a while, and then just died out left. Same thing with the Paradigm, like with that headwind and steep hyzer, it just pushed up straight and then went out and then finished left, but a little too early. And then I wanted to check the forehand using that cart path, the walking path as an OB. I gave the instinct a bit too much hyzer, never actually came out, but it was fine for the actual shot. It just kind of flipped up to less hyzer and pushed straight and then died. The CD1, that one, I put it on the hyzer literally right at the island, flipped up, turned out for about 300 feet, and then at 320 and just finished straight dead. And then the Paradigm, even less. I didn't put it as much hyzer, so it flipped up, turned out quite a bit more, maybe even off camera, and then just finished out, not even back in bounds. And so when it comes to how they feel, this neoplastic, it doesn't feel as grippy, especially right now. It's a bit cold. These are a bit, this one's a bit more used than some of the other ones, the Instinct. But it does feel grippable in the hand. My hands are pretty dry, but I can still grip it pretty fine. The CD1, when it's cold, like when I first got out here, it was stiff as heck, which most people would probably already know from the C-Line. But still, it's maybe slightly more grippy than the Instinct. And then the Paradigm, this one has a lot more give to it, and so I think that lends itself to feeling like you have a bit more of a handle on the disc, because it's not as stiff, so I feel like I can really grab it, but it's no less or more grippy than the Instinct. But when you're looking at all of their edges, you can obviously see that -1 being put into them. The Paradigm on its edge, the parting line on the disc is just slightly lower than the CD1. The CD1's parting line is just slightly lower than the Instinct, and then vice versa, the Instinct is the highest. All of their rims, from going from a 7 to a 9 to a 12, are not significantly different, at least unless you jump from an Instinct to the Paradigm. But in between them, it's just the perfect 9 spot. And so, yeah, my overall thoughts are that I think the CD1 flies like my more stable Instinct on shorter distances. The Instinct, when I throw it harder, about that 360 plus range, it'll push into a forced turn just because of how hard it's being torqued. Whereas the CD1, it's meant to like go into that type of flight, being that 9 speed. And so honestly, at that 380 to 410 range, this feels like a more confident disc to throw than the Instinct. After throwing this is the perfect in-between that's not jumping from a more stable fairway into an overstable distance driver, but more just the straight, stable fairway CD1 control driver. And so I do think if you don't already have a full bag, the CD1 would fit perfect right between a straight Instinct or FD and then the PD. And this is that good like middle range between wherever your T-Bird, Explorer, or Instinct or FD distance is. This one's like a more confident disc to throw in just further distances, but before you get to your distance drivers. If maybe you only throw about 350 max, then this would probably be like the good distance driver to have, your good like control distance driver when you're not needing to throw into a headwind. Yeah, let me know what you guys think, and yeah, have fun testing, and thanks for watching.